NBC 10 News starts now.
20 minutes of nonstop news begins with kids caught up in an escalating epidemic in Philadelphia. Gun violence is spiking across the city, especially among the youngest residents. NBC 10 is committed to covering the gun violence crisis and the effort to find solutions to stop it. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Tracy Davidson.
And I'm Jacqueline London. Yet another Philadelphia family is grieving this afternoon after a 15-year-old boy was shot and killed in Strawberry Mansion last night. And police say the number of children who have been homicide victims this year is far outpacing those killed during the same time last year. So far in 2021, there have been 130 homicides in the city, and 16 of those victims are children under age 18. NBC 10's Danny Freeman is joining us now from police headquarters with more on last night's killing and also an update on how city council members are working to address this violence that has to stop. Danny.
Jackie, Tracy, in a marathon city council meeting this morning, folks were talking specifically about gun violence and the trauma that kids are facing due to gun violence. And there was one phrase that stuck out to me listening to that meeting, this idea of the poverty of hope. That's what Philadelphia is battling right now, according to these officials, the fear, the lack of, the beating down of hope as this gun violence epidemic continues. Another morning of crime scene tape and police hoping for a break. Surveillance video from near North 26th Street in West Somerset and Strawberry Mansion show young people sprinting away last night, moments after a 15-year-old was shot in the chest, left on the street to die.
I wish that these people would put down these guns and stop shooting our children. We don't need this. We are already going through enough with this pandemic.
Keisha Hunter lives right where the shooting happened, and all she could think about was her own 16-year-old son.
Think about what happens when you pull that trigger. Somebody's child is dead. That is horrible. That is horrible. I'm so sad.
According to Philadelphia police, between January and April 6th of 2020, 4 young people under the age of 18 were victims of homicides. So far this year, 16 Philadelphia children have been killed by someone, nearly half of all of last year's youth homicides.
The loss of so many young lives to gun violence is a crisis. It's senseless. It's alarming.
Today, city council members and several local leaders discussed the urgent need to combat gun violence trauma that's now spreading among Philadelphia kids. School officials said hundreds of Philadelphia school district students have been touched by gun violence, and intervention is key to prevent long-lasting mental health damage and learning loss.
It's abnormal to live in a neighborhood where you see half of your friends die, right? Literally see them die as relates to the issue of gun violence. And so how are you processing that trauma? Do you decide to pick up a gun?
The fight to protect Philadelphia children, crucial before and after the shooting starts. Now, at this point, no arrests have been made in the killing of that 15-year-old boy, but Philadelphia police say they have their own surveillance video of the entire incident, 2 men firing a number of rounds. Meanwhile, coming up at 5:30, I speak with an anti-gun violence advocate. He himself was a victim of gun violence, and he gives his perspective on just how important it is to address this trauma in this